Hello, everybody. It's the Kristen Collective here at the Kristen Chronicles. We are in Tills in the Truck, and we have our tissues and journals and notebooks, and Janina Fisher's book, and our coping music playlists, and medical marijuana, and we are ready to dive into Trauma Talk Tuesday. Eventually, I'll have more of a system down where there's like specific questions that I like start with, kind of a thing. But we're still figuring it all out. It's nerve wracking just to be here. I can feel the parts present that they know what we're about to do, and we know it's needed, but it's also very nerve wracking. So it'll be a little rambly, but after a few sessions, I'm hoping to have more of a system down. And I want this to be helpful for you guys too. This is the highest tier on my Patreon, and I want to make sure that you are getting the most out of this possible. Because I could do this on my own and in my own way, but I'm trying to do it in a way where I can share it and hopefully help make sense of this process for others along a similar healing journey. Stupid people. Fuck you. That guy is such a fucking ass. Ha! Sorry, yeah, Fight Part's definitely around today. That guy ran us off the road the other day. We made sure to call the company he works for and explain, hey, this guy is not driving safely. Supposed to call and let you guys know if he's not, and he's not. Speeding recklessly and running me off the road intentionally, so no. Anyway, so I don't even know where to start, so we're going to be rambly, but we're going to find a system and get down. And again, if there's any specific things we've done in our trauma talks that are helpful that you'd like us to specifically like focus on more, just let us know. So otherwise it's just going to be rambling, and I feel like you guys aren't going to get much out of it if it's like that. So just let me know. I know my trauma talks have been pretty long before, but if you're able to watch them, it's some really good stuff in there. Like we are learning to build our own internal like secure attachments. That's a big deal. So I'm grateful to have the chance to share this process with you guys. So let me know, make sure to let me know your thoughts. So I think the best way to start would just to be to have like a very basic, straightforward question to start with that would help evaluate like where to move with processing things. I'm trying to find a note. Let me find it real quick. All right, I found what I was looking for. I started to make some therapy talk guidelines, so we'll see how this goes. I'm so nervous. I'm not gonna lie. What parts are present, and or what symptoms are causing present problems? So, what symptoms are present? What parts are present? What symptoms are causing problems? And this is an evaluation of the present moment, today, but also the last week, because it'll be Trauma Talk Tuesday will be a weekly check-in. So I'm gonna pretend I'm at therapy and she's going, "How was your week?" So this is where it gets tricky because I don't remember my week. I never remember my week. So the last week Zena was present. 1 week ago, Xena flight part present. Week before was Ocean present. Submit part. And then I suppose this week it's been mostly fight parts, but always blended. It's never just the fight parts like it used to be. And then, so I would say Coral, Ocean, and Felicity are mostly present this week. And use language of parts to unblend and combine with tactile aromatherapy grounding tools. Don't have my aromatherapy out here right now. So use the language of parts. So what have I been experiencing? Coral feels And so in this process, I'm noticing what I'm experiencing, me as a whole, and then saying, who would that most likely belong to, now that I know my parts a little bit. So, for example, wanting to hide and stay in bed all day is not representative of a flight part of consciousness, but it could be representative of a submit or maybe even a freeze part of consciousness. Being very hostile, like aggressive, paranoid, skeptical, just being very skeptical of everything, more argumentative, like pushing for the need to be right more than usual. That can all be signs of a fight part, for example. And so recognizing that is how we can make sense of this. And so in using the language of parts with Ginian Fisher's multi-conscious parts approach, it's a process of saying, well, who does this belong to? And you don't have to have like names for your parts. That's not even required. It can be part of the journey, especially if you have a dissociative identity and there are these, parts of you that kind of have their own life, and the process of establishing names can help bring, respect and unity within the system. It could be a part of it, but it's totally not required to name parts. We can simply say this part, whether we describe them as fight, flight, freeze, submit, or attach, or whether we say just a generic she, or the little one, or protector. It could just be a very generic tagline, protector or fight part or child part. It can just be a very general overview. It doesn't have to be names. I'm only recently at a place of using names, and so I want to stick with what works for us at this point of the journey. But this is not where the journey begins. So if you are in your early journey, just keep it general and describe the things as theirs, whatever that looks like. Maybe hers or his, or the little one's feelings, or the child part's feelings, or whatever it is that puts it as theirs in an accurate way. But you don't have to get super specific, especially if you don't know things. You don't have to make things up or try to jump ahead in the journey. That's what I was doing. I was like trying to make up names of parts before I even had contact with them, and that's not how it works, not effectively anyway. And so be as generic as you need to be, but describe things as theirs. So Coral, Ocean, and Felicity are mostly present this week. Coral feels the urge to give up, to quit while we're ahead, what has she been feeling? Coral feels, and it's so weird because it's all my stuff. Like, describing this as theirs does not come naturally. It is the process of learning a new language, and in that process we rewire our brain. So it's supposed to be hard, it's supposed to be awkward, it's supposed to feel uncomfortable. That's why it works. So Coral feels the urge to give up, to quit while we're ahead, to not dream too big, because that could only ever possibly lead to more pain. Coral is our fight protector, who was previously known as the suicidal part. Typing some notes to share with this video. So Coral is our fight protector. Coral feels the urge to give up, to quit while we're ahead, to not dream too big, because that could only ever possibly lead to more pain. Coral has dealt with the worst of the worst taking over for our consciousness when no one else could tolerate the level of pain we were experiencing. And then there's always a clue to look for in terms of this part experiences life differently in this capacity. And we can help bring balance to the system as a whole by encouraging these kinds of experiences. So, for example, Kingsley was incapable of experiencing joy. Kingsley could not experience joy. Ocean could not experience like a semblance of like confidence. Could not experience self-confidence. I suppose that's the best way to phrase it. And then I suppose flight parts could not experience stillness. Fight parts could not experience tender moments. Attached parts could not experience personal boundaries. The going on with normal life part could not experience I don't know how to put it into a succinct phrase. These damn dogs. Ruining my time. So, when we can identify the things that certain parts of us can't experience right now, that can be our goal. Our goal is for Coral to be able to experience hope. Our goal is for Kingsley to be able to experience joy. Our goal is for Ocean to be able to experience bold self-confidence. Our goal is for flight parts to experience genuine stillness. It's our goal for fight parts to experience truly tender moments. It's our goal for attached parts to experience and establish healthy boundaries. It's our goal for the going on with normal life self to be able to experience right brain dominant activity. It's our goal for trauma-related parts to experience left brain dominant activity. And so the goal is to help build these neural pathways, and we can start by recognizing what neural pathways are not built that need to be built. And so in certain states, we won't be capable of experiencing peace or joy or hope or stillness or whatever it might be, depending on what parts are dominantly present and what end of the spectrum our nervous system is dysregulated. And so bringing awareness to this is one step of how we can reclaim our power. All right. We're very up and down, back and forth, because there's both fight parts and submit parts present. Fight parts are related with the sympathetic nervous system, while submit parts are related with the parasympathetic nervous system. And so we keep going back and forth, up and down, and it's pretty intense. But we can know that that's a sign of the parts being present and trying to work together, and it can be a moment of encouragement. You know, our system is trying to find regulation. Instead of just being up here or just being down here, it's at least fighting to try and find some middle ground. And so it could be more exhausting and draining, but it's important to honor that. And so we have Coral present. We did a little bit of work with her. Now, Ocean is our youngest part of consciousness, a submit part who holds our original trauma and was therefore previously described as our core part. Ocean feels the urge to remain small, to not rock the boat, to simplify self-expectation so there is no sense of failing. She's afraid of letting down adults, from our own self to other human beings. And so we're doing this process of unblending, of acknowledging what's happening, putting it in the language of parts, and then from there we can move forward. But right now it's just a process of separating out what's happening. And so Coral, Ocean, and then the third part that's present is Felicity, our going on with normal life self. So Felicity feels the urge to move forward as fast as possible with our future career. She feels the need to secure things quickly, to establish an adult life that includes a regular, controllable income, and feels the need to secure things quickly, to establish an adult life that includes a regular, controllable income, as well as, along with the capacity to show up for day-to-day plans. So trauma parts really love having flexibility, but the going on with normal life self freaks out because there's supposed to be a plan in place. And this has to do with the trauma parts being very right-brained dominant and the going on with normal life self being very left-brain dominant. And so it's helpful to remind myself this is just the way that this part of the brain is wired. It's not this part of consciousness being difficult or being unwilling to XYZ or, whatever. Because that's kind of how therapists talk about it. Like, oh, well, this part's doing their job in the system. The parts don't have a decision about what they do in the system. They don't. It's our job to identify what their role is in the system and then eventually reassign that based on the part's strengths and weaknesses and already existing neural pathways. And so it's important to meet ourselves where we're at and just meet our parts where we're at. And Felicity is a part who doesn't know how to just take things moment by moment and stay flexible. It's stressful. It's very stressful to just be present. Whereas for trauma-related parts, it's very stressful to abide by a plan. There has to be this flexibility because things are always changing and unexpected things are happening and things are beyond our control. And so it's helpful to recognize these strengths and weaknesses and extend compassion. Like, hey, Felicity, I know you're having a hard time staying flexible. It's probably because you're left brain dominant and the left brain hemisphere is known for having plans and all these, very strict data and all this, kind of stuff. So it makes sense. Your feelings are valid, but we're still going to stay flexible because that's what we got to do right now. And so using the understanding that we gain about parts to extend a deeper level of compassion. Because therapists were always under the impression that I could choose the way that parts showed up and choose the way that they would perform their job. It's not like that. Eventually, we're going to adjust and reassign jobs, but we can't just jump to that part of the journey. We have to start with observing where we are. And so fight parts are going to have a hard time having any kind of vulnerability, going to have a hard time having any kind of intimate connection. Whereas parts who can experience that are not going to be able to establish boundaries, for example. And so recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of parts, how they innately, naturally, instinctively, automatically are, is a very significant piece of the early journey. Before we can reassign the way that these parts will show up, we have to learn how they are showing up and why. And so knowing that Ocean feels the need to be small and knowing that the fight parts feel the need to restrict and restrain for the sake of protecting, and knowing that Felicity needs to stop having so many plans and to-do lists and needs to just kind of be mindful and in the moment, that is a huge step. That's a huge step of the healing journey, recognizing their strengths and weaknesses and learning to work with those so we don't stay stuck where we are, but we're very compassionately working with where we are and using the failing up approach to get over here. If we're down here, we can't just jump here, but we can do that one thing to get a little bit closer, and then do that one thing to get a little bit closer, and then do that one thing get a little bit closer, and then do it again and again and again and again and again, and then eventually we'll get up here to the point of, okay, here's this part and this is your job and do it. But we have to build that relationship and work towards that point of the journey for it to be effective. So done a little bit of work, and I don't know if we should continue. I don't know either. Okay, so we're gonna pause and take a break and do a second video. We're trying to pause it and make them not quite so long, because before we were just letting it free roll camera, and that was helpful because it wasn't so stressful for us. But then we realized nobody's watching it because it's too long. So we'll try to keep these under 30 minutes, and you can let me know how doable that is for you guys, because I want to make sure that this is content that can be helpful. Otherwise, why am I even here? So let me know what you guys think of it. We will pause this. This will be Trauma Talk Tuesday Part 1, and we'll see if we make a Part 2 or not. I know there's more work that needs to be done, but at the same time, I feel like this is a good stopping point. So I don't know. I might see you for Part 2. I might see you next week. I don't know, but either way, love you guys. Beautiful and blessed day. In light and love. Namaste, soul friends.